When Mr. Chow pleaded with me to marry his son in exchange for saving my father's life all those years ago. This time, I didn't choose Caden Chow, whom I had secretly loved for 15 years, but his older brother, Simon Chow. When Mr. Chow heard that I had chosen to marry Simon Chow, he looked at me in astonishment and asked if I had said the wrong name. I shook my head bitterly. In my previous life, I chose to marry Caden Chow. After marriage, no matter how much I tried to please him, he remained cold and indifferent toward me, preferring to live in a bar and a hotel for the rest of his life rather than touch me. I had always believed that Caden Chow simply didn't know how to love someone. It wasn't until 70 years later, after Caden Chow passed away, that I discovered thousands of letters he had written to White Moonlight while sorting through his belongings in the hotel where he had lived for years. The letters were filled with his thoughts and longing for her. Only then did I realize that he wasn't incapable of loving someone, he simply didn't love me. In this new life, I decided to let him be with White Moonlight. But when I got married to his brother in a wedding dress, Caden Chow stood in front of me with bloodshot eyes and asked me why I wasn't marrying him. After I agreed to marry Simon Chow, the news of the Zhou and Jiang families' upcoming marriage spread throughout San Francisco. However, all the media outlets unanimously believed that it was Caden Chow who was about to get engaged to me, not Simon Chow. At the cafe, I had just sent away the reporters I had called to clarify the situation when Caden Chow and his brothers walked toward me. I had planned to ignore him, but Caden Chow, who had always treated me like air, unexpectedly walked toward me. Vivian Jiang, are you so unlovable that you resorted to colluding with the media to force me into marriage? Do you think I'll give in? Don't even think about it? I will never marry you. Looking at Caden Chow's impatient and disgusted gaze, a sharp pain surged uncontrollably in my heart. I subconsciously opened my mouth to explain, I didn't. His good friend behind him interrupted me, Brother Chow, the woman who was sitting with her drinking coffee just now looks like Lu Yu, the famous entertainment gossip reporter from San Francisco. Upon hearing this, Caden Chow was even more convinced that I had intentionally leaked the information to the media, and his gaze toward me grew even more contemptuous. I closed my eyes, which felt slightly stinging, and opened them again, my expression calm. I only called the reporter to clarify that you are not my fiancé. As soon as I finished speaking, laughter erupted around me. The few brothers behind Caden Chow looked at me with mockery and ridicule. Jiang Vivian, don't joke with us. All of us know that you've been madly in love with our Chingu for years. You probably even dream of marrying him. How could you take the initiative to find a reporter to clarify things? I think you're just upset that the news of the arranged marriage isn't spreading fast enough, so you brought in new reporters to fan the flames. Unfortunately, no matter what you do, our Chingu will never like you. Caden Chow looked at me, his eyes filled with disgust. Jiang Vivian, you really are a liar. Everyone in Jinghai knows how much you've loved me all these years. Besides me, who else would you want to marry? I can spare you the embarrassment and let you keep up the facade of being my fiancé in public, but don't even think about anything else. You're not worthy. Hearing this, I looked at him in astonishment. In my previous life, he hadn't reacted this way when faced with the arranged marriage. Although he was cold, he hadn't shown any obvious rejection of the engagement, so I had married him full of hope. What could have changed his attitude? As I pondered this, the once bustling cafe suddenly fell silent. I looked up in confusion and saw Caden Chow's White Moonlight Luna Lu standing at the entrance of the cafe. She looked at me and Caden Chow, her delicate eyes filled with hurt and heartbreak. She suddenly walked up, took the ring off her finger, placed it in my hand, and said in a trembling voice, I saw the news and found out that the two of you are getting engaged. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to keep the ring Caden gave me, so I'm returning it to you. But the ring has our names engraved on it, and Caden engraved them himself. I hope Miss Kong won't mind. I wish you happiness. As she said the last sentence, she seemed unable to bear it anymore, shed a tear, and turned away, trembling, as if she wanted to leave. But just as she was about to walk out the door, she suddenly fell to the ground. Caden Chow immediately snatched the ring from my hand, pushed me away forcefully, and rushed over to embrace her tenderly, checking her injuries. Luna Lu leaned weakly against Caden Chow's chest, but the look in her eyes as she looked at me was full of triumph and provocation. Just as Caden Chow was anxiously trying to get up to take her to the hospital, Luna Lu struggled to her feet and limped toward me. With Caden Chow's support, she stood in front of me, her face anxious, but her eyes full of provocation. "Miss Kong, don't misunderstand. Caden just cares about me because he's used to it. After all, I've always been the first in his heart over the years, but there's really nothing between us. Don't mind it." The people around me looked at me with eyes full of schadenfreude. After all, everyone knew how much I cared about Caden Chow over the past decade. Whenever Caden Chow was with any female friend, I would treat them like enemies, arguing loudly and disregarding my image, afraid that someone would steal him away from me. Caden Chow was prepared for me to make a scene, holding Luna Lu tightly in his arms, afraid that I would do something to hurt his beloved. However, I just looked at them calmly and didn't do anything embarrassing or inappropriate. Caden Chow let go of Luna Lu and spoke again, his tone tinged with anger and embarrassment. "You know what's good for you. You didn't hurt Luna, or else I wouldn't have let you off." After saying that, he bent down, picked Luna Lu up, and walked out of the coffee shop. As they were about to leave, Luna Lu wrapped her arms around Caden Chow's neck, gave me a triumphant glance, but spoke sincerely. "Caden, it's hard to catch a taxi here. Let's give Miss Kong a ride." Caden Chow stopped in his tracks, his gaze shifting from Luna Lu to me. His expression turned impatient. "Vivian, are you deaf? Can't you hear Luna? Hurry up and follow us. I'll take you home later." I wanted to refuse, but noticed the malicious, gossiping glances from those around me and my phone, which had been drenched in coffee and was now dead. I decided to give in and follow them. Now, my every word and action represented the Kangs, and I didn't want to be left behind as the topic of everyone's gossip. When we arrived at the parking lot, Caden Chow naturally carried Luna Lu to the passenger seat and fastened her seatbelt. As they drove off, Luna Lu casually brushed her lips against his cheek, and the two locked eyes and kissed naturally. I raised my eyebrows but said nothing, sitting down in the back seat as if it were the most natural thing in the world. When he heard the back door open, Caden Chow seemed to remember that I had followed them. He hurriedly pushed Luna Lu away and looked at me, his eyes filled with indescribable emotions, but his hand subconsciously reached out to protect Luna Lu beside him. It was as if he was afraid that I would suddenly go crazy and hurt her. However, seeing me with my hands propped up on my cheeks, looking indifferent, Caden Chow's hand, which had been raised, slowly stiffened in place. After a long while, he walked into the driver's seat with a dark expression and slammed the door shut. After the car started moving, Luna Lu sat in the passenger seat and pointed at a small sticker on the car that read, "Luna's exclusive seat, no one else allowed." She smiled and said in a voice that I could hear clearly, "Isn't this the one I thought was funny and deliberately stuck on your car that day? Caden, why are you still keeping it? Won't Miss Kong misunderstand? I'll tear it off." She said she was going to tear it off, but she didn't actually mean it. Instead, she looked at me with a provocative glint in her eyes. In the past, I probably would have been provoked by her. But now, I just found her tactics childish and amusing, extremely boring. Caden Chow glanced at me in the back seat out of the corner of his eye and suddenly raised his voice. "What are you tearing? The front passenger seat is yours, no one else can sit there." After dropping me off at my neighborhood, Caden Chow parked the car and got out with me. I looked at Caden Chow following behind me, feeling a little strange, but I didn't ask him anything and just got ready to go home. Caden Chow saw that I was leaving and suddenly grabbed my hand. I looked at him, and he held a lapel pin in his hand and forced it into mine, his tone tinged with contempt and disdain. "This is for you. Take my gift and behave yourself. I allow you to use my fiancé's name outside, but you must know your place. Don't do anything that will upset Luna. And don't think that by pretending not to care like you did today, you can get my attention. My heart will always belong to Luna. Don't be delusional." After saying that, Caden Chow turned and walked away. I looked at the lapel pin he had forcefully shoved into my hand and couldn't help but find it amusing. I recognized the pin. It was a custom gift from a luxury brand of women's watches, and I had seen that watch on Luna Lu's wrist today. I shook my head, casually threw the pin into the trash can by the door, and turned back home. After washing up, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. At this time in my previous life, Luna Lu had already left the country. In this life, she was staying in the country and showed no signs of leaving. What was going on? Could Luna Lu have been reborn too? With these thoughts running through my mind, I slowly fell asleep. I dreamed about my previous life. In my previous life, I chose to get engaged to Caden Chow. In order to ensure that the marriage between the two families went smoothly, Mr. Chow secretly asked Luna Lu out and gave her $5 million to send her abroad. It was clearly Luna Lu who chose to take the money and leave the country, but before she left, she deliberately left a message to make Caden Chow think that I had forced Luna Lu away in order to marry him. Caden Chow married me out of revenge, constantly giving me hope and then disappointing me. When I came out of the room, my father and mother were chatting in the living room. My mother told me that Simon Chow's older brother would be returning to the country today, and tonight's banquet was both to welcome him back and our engagement party. I nodded, but my palms were clenched tightly. In my previous life, Simon Chow also returned to the country on the same day, but the private plane he was on crashed unexpectedly, and he died in the accident. In this life, I had already told him not to take a private jet back to the country, so he should be able to avoid an accident, right? Although I had made preparations, I still felt very anxious. To ease my mind, I drove alone to the seaside villa. There was a rose garden in the villa that I had planted since I was a child. Standing among the rose bushes, my heart would calm down. I created the rose garden because Caden Chow said roses were his favorite flowers. I collected various rose seeds for him and planted them in the garden. Now, more than 10 years later, it has become a beautiful rose garden. However, when I drove into the villa, I found that all the roses had been pulled out, with only a few scattered branches remaining in the corner. I furrowed my brows, looking at the traces of destruction in the garden, and took out my phone to call the police. But then I heard the voices of Caden Chow and Luna Lu in the distance. I walked quickly toward the sound and saw Caden Chow sitting on a swing covered in roses. Luna Lu was snuggled up in his arms, smiling brightly. I clenched my fists, forced the swing to stop, and glared angrily at the two of them, shouting, "Who gave you permission to come here and destroy my rose garden?" Luna Lu saw me, and her previously radiant smile turned pitiful. "Miss Kong, I said I liked the rose swing, so Caden brought me here and made it for me himself. He even got his hands pricked by the roses while making the swing for me. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Don't blame Caden." Caden Chow quickly shielded Luna Lu behind him, glaring at me with impatience and disgust. "Vivian Jiang, are you done yet? It's just a few roses. Are you really that petty?" I was so angry at Caden Chow and Luna Lu that my chest rose and fell rapidly. These two had ruined the rose garden I had spent years cultivating, and now they were calling me petty? How could someone be so shameless? And besides, everyone knows this rose garden was planted by you for me. I only used a few roses. Why are you so upset? Are you jealous that I made a swing for Luna? What right do you have to be jealous of Luna? Caden Chow glanced at me with a smirk and said condescendingly, "Stop making a scene. Once Luna is done playing on the swing, this swing I made with my own hands will be yours." I was nearly driven mad by Caden Chow's shamelessness. 1,000 words were stuck in my throat, but my upbringing wouldn't allow me to say such things. Luna Lu, who was standing nearby, said, "Yes, Miss Kong, I'm almost done playing. I'll give you back the swing and your roses." She pretended to get off the swing, but as she left, she casually untied the rope that held the swing in place. After she got up, she pushed me toward the swing. Without the rope to hold it in place, the swing suddenly broke apart and came crashing down on me. Caden Chow instinctively grabbed Luna Lu and held her tightly in his arms. I was hit by the wooden swing and fell heavily to the ground. Seeing that I was injured, Caden Chow's eyebrows flashed with emotion. He was about to come over to help me, but Luna Lu stopped him. She lowered her eyes, looking somewhat pitiful. "Miss Kong, I already promised to return the swing and the roses to you. How could you deliberately destroy the swing and injure yourself to frame me? This swing was made by Caden himself. How could you bear to destroy it?" The intense pain caused my mind to go blank for a moment. My face turned pale, cold sweat broke out on my forehead, and I couldn't hear a word they were saying. "Help me." I instinctively reached out to Caden Chow for help, but he stepped on my outstretched hand because of what Luna Lu had said. His eyes were filled with anger and cruelty. "Jiang Vivian, do you really want to marry me that badly? Are you willing to intentionally injure yourself and frame Luna for it?" I must teach you a lesson today so you'll remember. Since you enjoy acting so much, stay here and act by yourself. He then took another support beam from the swing on the ground and slammed it hard into my waist. Then he crushed my phone under his foot and shouted at me, "Get over here and kneel down with Luna to apologize. You won't be allowed to stand up until she forgives you." Seeing that I didn't react for a while, Caden Chow's anger intensified. He kicked me hard and said, "Jiang Vivian, don't forget that tonight could either be our engagement party or not. It's up to me. Our engagement party can be cancelled at any moment. Now, get down on your knees and apologize to Luna. Beg her for forgiveness like a dog." I endured the intense pain and looked at them, speaking slowly and clearly. I said, "The person I want to marry is not you. There's no way I'll apologize to her." My words made Caden Chow pause, a hint of doubt flashing in his eyes. He was about to speak when his WeChat buzzed. After reading the message, his hesitant expression turned smug again. He looked at me with a condescending tone and said, "Jiang Vivian, you almost fooled me. You said you didn't want to engage to me, yet you booked Manchester roses tonight. Everyone knows that's my favorite flower, yet you still insist your fiancé isn't me." I was about to explain that I had specifically ordered them for Simon Chow, who also loved Manchester roses. However, he didn't give me a chance to speak, glaring at me with disgust and saying, "I'll take Luna to the banquet first. Since you refuse to kneel and apologize to her here, you can do it in front of everyone at the banquet. If you don't kneel down and apologize today, there will be no groom at our engagement party. Luna, I, and many guests are waiting for you at the engagement party." With that, he hugged Luna Lu and turned to leave. The pain in my waist almost killed me, but seeing them walk out of my sight made me even more desperate. Who could save me? The intense pain finally caused me to faint. I didn't see a tall man who carried me away after I fainted. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital room filled with the smell of disinfectant. I tentatively moved my body, but the pain made me freeze, and I couldn't help but cry out in pain. "You're still injured. Don't move around." A low, sexy male voice reached my ears, and I realized there was another person in the room. Looking at his face, which bore a striking resemblance to Caden Chow's, I recognized him as the eldest son of the Chows, Caden Chow's older brother, Simon Chow. Seeing him, I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and my anxious heart instantly calmed down. I gave him a big smile and said, "You're back safe and sound." Simon Chow heard what I said and raised his eyebrows, looking at me with a hint of interest in his eyes. "Did you send me that anonymous text message?" I nodded. He asked me again, "How did you know someone had tampered with my private plane? And why did you save me?" Although he sounded suspicious, there was no malice in his eyes, only curiosity and gratitude. I knew he wasn't really doubting me, so I said, "Do you believe me when I say I dreamed about you last night? As for why I saved you, it's because you're my Simon." He paused for a moment, then nodded and said, "I believe you." His reaction took me by surprise. Thinking about how he had saved me, I looked at him with a mix of gratitude and confusion. "Thank you for saving me. But why were you there?" He looked at me and explained, "After receiving your text message, I didn't really believe it at first. But I'm not someone who likes to take risks. So I had someone check the plane carefully, and found that someone had actually tampered with the engine. At first, I suspected you, the person who sent me the message, so I had someone investigate you. I'm sorry." Saying this, he looked at me and saw that I didn't feel any resentment or disgust towards him, so he continued, "Originally, I just wanted to meet the person who sent me the message, but when I found you, you were injured and unconscious. So I took you to the hospital." I looked at him and naturally asked the question that was on my mind, "Then why didn't you suspect me?" Intuition. I believe my fiancé is not a bad person. After he finished speaking, we smiled at each other. After that, my impression of Simon Chow improved greatly. I could sense that he and Caden Chow were two different people. He was honest, humble, and kind. He was completely opposite from Caden Chow, who was arrogant and selfish. After leaving the hospital, Simon Chow and I went back to the Chow's house. At that moment, the Kangs and the Chows were hosting a small banquet, and there were many people coming and going at the door. Caden Chow was welcoming guests at the entrance of the banquet hall. When Simon Chow and I appeared at the entrance of the banquet hall hand in hand, Caden Chow looked as if he had seen a ghost and shouted in shock, "Big brother? You! How did you get here? Are you human or a ghost?" His words made Simon Chow and me look up at him suddenly. The shock and fear in Caden Chow's eyes didn't seem fake. A flash of insight struck me, and I instantly realized that Caden Chow had also been reborn. That's why Luna Lu was able to stay in the country safely. That's why he was so afraid that I would hurt Luna Lu. It all made sense now. Looking at Simon Chow's suspicious gaze, I knew he probably thought that Caden Chow had bribed someone to sabotage his private plane. Rivalry between brothers in wealthy families has been around since ancient times. Simon Chow's suspicion was not entirely unfounded. After all, Caden Chow had also been reborn and faced the same fate as Simon Chow's plane crash, yet he remained indifferent. Watching his own older brother die with his own eyes, most people wouldn't be able to do such a thing. Even though I already knew about Caden Chow's selfishness and cruelty, he still managed to surprise me with his low character every time. After Simon Chow and I entered the banquet hall, he soon went into the study. I knew he was probably going to investigate the cause of the private jet malfunction. So I didn't pay much attention to it. I was waiting in the lounge for the makeup artist to finish my makeup when Caden Chow suddenly burst in. As soon as he entered, he chased the makeup artist out, then grabbed my hand and demanded, "Jiang Vivian, I'm warning you. Don't you dare lay a finger on Luna again, or I'll never forgive you. And I'll never forgive the Kangs either." I forcefully pulled my wrist out of his grip. The hatred from past lives intertwined, causing me to slap him hard across the face and say, "Who let you in? Get out." Caden Chow's face was left with a red handprint from my slap. His eyes flashed with rage. He raised his hand to strike me, but lowered it under my hate-filled gaze. When he spoke, he was no longer furious, but said in a low voice, "I know you're doing all this because you like me, because you want to marry me. As long as you promise me you won't hurt Luna, I won't hold you responsible for forcing our two families to arrange this engagement today. But after the engagement, you must remember that you obtained the title of my fiancé through dishonorable means. Never compete with Luna for anything. Even if I am forced to marry you by my father in the future, my heart will always belong to Luna alone. After the wedding, when I bring Luna home, you must help cover for me and speak highly of Luna in front of my father, so he will accept her sooner, understand?" As he spoke, he seemed to be bestowing a great favor upon me, saying, "If you can do all of this, I will occasionally come home so you can bear my child. As for the rest, don't even think about it. My heart will always belong to Luna alone. The Chow family's fortune will only be left to me and Luna's children. As for you, if you behave yourself, I'll allow the Kangs to participate in some of the Chow family's investments in the future. After all, I know the future direction of all industries and the stock market for the next few decades." Listening to his absurd words, I couldn't help but laugh coldly. I gained a clearer understanding of Caden Chow's arrogance. He thought that just because he had been reborn, he had gained divine insight and knew the future? Didn't he know that the only constant in the world was change? Even the flapping of a butterfly's wings could cause a hurricane, and he actually wanted to replicate the developments of his previous life? I would wait and see how he ended up. I watched Caden Chow rant and rave in front of me, then stride out of the lounge, a cold smile on my lips. Then, Simon Chow walked towards me with a stack of documents. I didn't know when he had changed into a white suit. The well-tailored suit perfectly outlined his tall and slender figure. He looked like a prince from a Western fairy tale. When he walked up to me and held out his hand, I couldn't help but place my hand in his palm. He led me to the banquet hall. Caden Chow was still lost in his own fantasy. When he saw Simon Chow and me walk in together, his brows furrowed, and his eyes filled with anger. But in front of everyone, he still pulled out the chair next to him and waited for me to sit down. His expression was full of arrogance, as if he was certain I would gratefully sit in the chair he had pulled out for me. But I didn't even glance at him. I walked straight past him and sat down in the chair Simon Chow had pulled out for me. Caden Chow's eyes were filled with anger. He gave me a warning look, then lowered his head to send a message on his phone. A moment later, my phone rang, and I answered it. It was a message from Caden Chow. "Vivian Jiang, stop playing games to get my attention. I'm not falling for your tricks. I'm warning you not to do anything unnecessary, or else today's engagement party can be cancelled at any time. You can't even be my fiancé in name. Am I such a despicable person? Would I care about his so-called fiancé title? I blocked him and put my phone down. Facing Simon Chow's inquiring gaze, I said softly, "It's nothing. An unimportant person. It's already been handled." Simon Chow nodded, served me some food, and after seeing me eat, continued, "If there's anything you can't handle, just come find me. It's my responsibility as Simon to take care of any troubles for my fiancé." I looked at Simon Chow's handsome and steady features, my heart racing and my ears turning red. He was such a good person, and such a good person was about to become my Simon. I lowered my head and smiled at him. Watching our interaction, Caden Chow's eyes grew angrier. He picked up his phone again to send me a message, but he didn't expect that I had blocked him. Looking at the red exclamation mark on his phone, Caden Chow's eyes burned with rage. His anger burned away his reason, and just then, Luna Lu came in dressed as a waitress. He pulled Luna Lu to his side. Caden Chow's actions drew everyone's attention to them. Luna Lu lowered her eyes because of his actions, looking a little shy. The people around them were all sharp-eyed, and they could see through their little game of glances. They looked at Luna Lu and Caden Chow with contempt, wondering how they could bring their mistress to a banquet like this. He didn't care about his family's reputation, which showed that the second son of the Chows was a good-for-nothing. He was no match for his older brother. Caden Chow didn't notice the disdainful glances around him. Instead, he angrily sent me a text message, "You blocked me on WeChat? You have some nerve. Just you wait. I'll announce in front of everyone that I will never marry you. The only woman I will ever marry is Luna. Even if I'm not the heir to the Chows, that will never change." I looked at Caden Chow coldly as he raged, then blocked his phone number without hesitation. His gaze toward me grew even more furious. Mr. Chow then took the stage, delivered a brief speech, and announced the marriage between the Zhou and Jiang families in front of everyone. Upon hearing this, Caden Chow immediately jumped up, dragged Luna Lu onto the stage, held her hand, and declared that Luna Lu was the only woman he had ever loved in his life. He would never marry anyone but Luna Lu. If he was forced to marry me, he would rather cut off all ties with the Chows than compromise. His eyes were filled with the satisfaction of revenge. Luna Lu, who was holding him tightly and smiling happily, looked at me with a smug expression, as if she was waiting to see me suffer and despair. However, unfortunately, as I watched them go crazy on stage, my face showed no emotion. Caden Chow did not get the reaction he wanted, and his face showed a mix of astonishment and confusion. He couldn't understand how I, who had loved him for more than 10 years, could remain unmoved after hearing him confess his feelings to another woman. And there were no eyes in the audience that were moved by his steadfast love, as he had imagined. He looked more like a clown. His performance today showed no anger, he was just a clown. The only one who was truly angry was Mr. Chow. The Chow group was currently facing a crisis of survival, and the marriage alliance with the Kangs was crucial. There could not be even the slightest mistake. And his second son was still confused about the situation, causing trouble at the banquet and bringing shame to the Chows. Look at his outstanding eldest son, then look at his foolish second son. Mr. Chow furrowed his brows, closed his eyes, then opened them again. I knew he had reached his limit and made a decision. He walked onto the stage, not even glancing at Luna Lu, who was being carefully protected by Caden Chow, and directly took the microphone and said, "Welcome everyone to the engagement banquet of the Zhou and Jiang families. Before we begin the engagement ceremony, I have 2 announcements to make. First, it has always been my eldest son, Simon Chow, who is engaged to Vivian. Second, the future heir of the Chows has always been my eldest son, Simon Chow. Since Caden Chow wishes to break free from the Chow's shackles and pursue his own love that transcends the mundane world, I hereby declare that from today onwards, the Chows will sever all ties with Caden Chow, and we will each go our separate ways." The smug expression in Caden Chow's eyes vanished instantly, replaced by disbelief. Luna Lu's face turned pale. She looked at Caden Chow, then at Simon Chow beside me, and finally at me, her eyes filled with resentment and hatred. To prevent Caden Chow from doing anything embarrassing at the banquet, Mr. Chow had Caden Chow and Luna Lu thrown out. When he was kicked out of the house, Caden Chow was still in shock. He couldn't understand how, in his previous life, he had been the Chow's heir apparent. How could everything have changed after his older brother returned? His fiancée was now his older brother's fiancée, and he had lost his position as heir. Looking at the banquet hall, which was bustling with people and completely unaffected by his expulsion, everyone offered their blessings and gifts for Simon Chow and me. Caden Chow's eyes reddened, and he felt so angry that he felt like he was about to explode. At the same time, he felt a lot of resentment. She was his fiancée, and even if he didn't want her, she would still be with him for the rest of her life. Caden Chow hated the Kangs and the Chows with all his heart. His attention was completely focused on Simon Chow and me, and he didn't notice Luna Lu's perfunctory expression when she faced him, nor did he notice the admiration in her eyes as she looked at Simon Chow, who was engaged to me. After Simon Chow and I got engaged, the Kangs and the Chows immediately began to cooperate closely. With this marriage agreement in place, the two families felt secure with each other. With this powerful alliance, not only did the Chow group survive the crisis, but our two families also developed together and became leading enterprises in San Francisco. As time passed, Simon Chow and I grew even closer. Simon Chow worked hard, and I didn't sit around either. I remained wary of Caden Chow. I knew he wouldn't give up so easily and would definitely come back. You can't guard against a thief forever. I'm not afraid of him. He has memories of his past life, and so do I. In fact, I've lived more than a decade longer than him and have more experience. I decided to take the initiative and eliminate the threat once and for all. When I found out that someone had anonymously invested a large sum of money in the bidding for the Death Valley development project, I finally smiled. The fish I had been waiting for had finally taken the bait. I knew that the anonymous bidder must be Caden Chow, who had pinned all his hopes for a comeback on the development of the Death Valley project. I deliberately found someone to bid against him and drove the price up extremely high. When it was about to exceed his limits, I called a halt. I knew Caden Chow would never give up on Death Valley, because we all knew that although the land looked insignificant now, it would become the economic hub of the area in the future, with every inch of land worth its weight in gold. No matter how much money was spent to buy it now, it would yield a 1,000-fold return in the future. Caden Chow had invested all his available funds into the project and successfully secured the Death Valley land. However, before he started development, I wrote an anonymous letter to the official archaeological team. There is an imperial tomb hidden beneath Death Valley. In his previous life, Caden Chow died young and did not know that an ancient tomb had been discovered halfway through the development of Death Valley. At the time, the government was also in a difficult position regarding this ancient tomb. If they halted development to excavate the tomb, the initial investment would be too high and not worth it. If they abandoned the tomb and continued with Death Valley development, the opposition would be too strong, and it would also be a major blow to our country's history. So whatever decision they made, it was a difficult choice. This time, while Death Valley was still undeveloped, I directly spread the news that there was an ancient tomb at the foot of the mountain, which was also a good deed. After the archaeological team revealed the news that there was an ancient tomb beneath Death Valley, Caden Chow immediately went bankrupt. With bloodshot eyes, he glared at the national archaeological team that had already moved into Death Valley, but there was nothing he could do. As long as the archaeological excavation continues, Death Valley cannot be developed. Upon hearing the news, everyone abandoned their plans to invest around Death Valley. Caden Chow not only lost all his money but also owed the bank a significant amount. Unable to repay the debt, the bank blacklisted his credit, and he eventually became a deadbeat who couldn't even take a plane or high-speed train. After Caden Chow ran out of money, the first person to abandon him was Luna Lu. Luna Lu took the last of his money and then approached Simon Chow, pretending to be pitiful to gain his sympathy. However, Simon Chow was not her brother and did not fall for her tricks. He sent her back to Caden Chow without hesitation. Caden Chow finally realized what kind of venomous snake the woman he had loved all his life truly was. In a fit of rage, he strangled Luna Lu to death, dismembered her body, and threw the remains into the sewer. By the time Luna Lu's body was discovered, he had already fled to an unknown location. I always had a feeling he would come back for me. So I reported it to the police early on and waited by my side. As soon as he appeared, the police arrested him. Before he was arrested, his eyes were bloodshot, and he apologized to me, saying that he was sorry, that he had been blind to love the wrong person, and asked if I would forgive him. He said that if he were given another chance, he would treat me well with all his heart, because the person he loved was me. I just looked at him calmly as he raved, my face expressionless, just as he had done countless times in his previous life. When he saw my expression, his struggling body stiffened. I knew he had recognized me as the reincarnated version of myself. He no longer begged for my forgiveness, because he knew that with the memories of our past life, I would never forgive him. He took out the utility knife hidden in his clothes and slit his own throat. Before he died, he muttered that he would start over and make the right choice next time. I watched him open his eyes and fall heavily to the ground. But in my heart, I knew he would never have another chance. Neither would I. Rebirth is something that uses up all the luck you have in your lifetime. How could there be a second chance? Looking at Simon Chow waiting for me in the distance. I think in this life, I've already gotten what I wanted. There are no regrets.